Peter, I apologize.
That's okay.
I even had it written down.
That's all right. It, being 4:17, we'll call the
Thanks. Thanks,
the DPW and Natural Resources Building Facility Committee to order. Let's see. First on the agenda is an update from the DPW director.
Sir, I'm going to go to the podium because it's not working from here. Whatever. It is what it is. So, it's been a while. I was just talking to Mike. I think it's been like 6 months or so since we've met. A lot has gone on. Knock on wood, generally speaking, I think the project's going excellent. I really do. We have our weekly site meetings, and they're productive, and they're kind of short, and boom, 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 we're in, we're out, and things are just rolling forward nicely, trying to stay ahead of any issues, you know, whatever little ones there are. So it's going good. So anyway, I'm just gonna throw you a few pictures real fast, you know, what's going on. This is like in the last, since say January date, you know, like the site work has just continued going on, building the ponds, etc. So, you know, some of these pictures might be 3 months old. All the exterior walls, foundation walls were completed. Pete knows some of these pictures. Figure I'd throw it out there to the easy, quick PowerPoint. You see nice true plumb. You look at the sides of the big building now, it's just everything's nice and true. Going really well. So all those walls are completed. That's a shot from the hill looking down at the storage garage. And then the structural steel at this point is completed. So if you look at this picture, there's the first piece that went up. It was in January. First piece of steel that went up. And then you can see how it kind of came, the admin area kind of came together. All weather. This is just to look at some of the mezzanines. I think this is in the shop area when they're starting to put the mezzanines together above the shops, and you know, what do you call those, rafters? I don't know. What do they call them when they're steel? Anyway, roof supports. How about that? Trusses?
Trusses.
Not trusses. They're just beams. But anyway, but the structural steel at this point is completed. Just like that picture. Looks messy. A lot of steel going on. Anyway, so that's done. What do I keep going? Oh yeah, a couple more. Just this was out in the garage area. You see how it progressed with just the columns, and then you can see where the roof support went on. But then here's the mezzanine. You know, mezzanine 6, and it's all hung from the ceiling, which is great. So there's no posts underneath where the trucks go or anything. So, like I said, coming along very nicely. Plumbing underway, water underground plumbing, ton of it everywhere. You know, and then the electrical's underway, a lot of electrical underneath. When you like to figure that out, you know, throughout the building. But that's, you know, knock on wood, as-bills being made, you know, every day. The framing now, so, you know, it's probably substantially complete at this point, the framing work. Sheathing on the sides, moving along, waterproofing, moving along. CMU block underway with the waterproofing and insulation behind it. The mezzanine decking underway. I think they're ready. Actually, almost. I think they're going to pour the mezzanines next week. Concrete slabs on the decking. I thought I heard that today. So that's happening soon. Generators in place. And subgrade, you know, underway in different areas, ready for a slab. End of next week, they're going to hopefully pour the administration area slab. So, see what else we got. Finances. Okay, so let's talk money. Okay, so this is up to the current payment that's gone out. And so when you look at this, you know, we're doing monthly payments to the contractor, but this is pretty much up to date. You know, total value of the job. Hold on, let me look at this. Here's the budget, yeah, for the job. This is what we paid out to date. Here's the balance still to pay. So we are 33% through the job, financially speaking. We paid, you know, up to 33% through the job. And so it's like change order. So the only official change order to date is change order number 1, and this is the one we talked about 6 months ago. You remember this. We increased the height and revised the building elevations, and there was a drainage modification near the salt shed, $42,000. So looking at our contingency, we got 600,000 in contingency. Change order one was 42,000 in change. So, we still have 557,000 in contingency officially to date. And there's some other areas that we've completed that were 16,000 under budget in some other areas, so that's good. We can use that money for other things. So with 33% through the job and only 7% through the contingency officially today, which is fantastic. Mike, by the way, if you want this presentation, Mike,
Yep,
I can just give it to you. It'll help you save in your
Okay.
handwriting. How about that?
that's great, thank you.
I'll just email it to you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep,
So anyway, yeah, 7% through the contingency, which is great. And only 1.2% was field conditions. The $7,000 was, something that we just, it was something, oh, we didn't know this happened, it's a field condition, we need to make a change. The rest of those items we decided we wanted to do, to revise the building a little bit because it was the right thing to do. So, 1.2% through is fantastic, at this stage of the game. So let's talk about potential change order number 2, which is we're starting to put together right now. Some of this stuff, we've already given the blessing. I'm kind of here today to give you an overview of where we are, status report. I'm really here to talk to you about one change order in particular. This stuff has pretty much been approved and already work is done. We just have to get all the paperwork going. So we did have an issue with the flare way back last fall. All our plans of record for the landfill showed that there was a pipe that ran across up here to collect the gas, and it was supposed to be on top of the impermeable barrier, on top of the cap. So we started digging and looking for this thing, couldn't find it. Come to find out, it was under the cap. So what we had to do was way over here in the corner over here, we intercepted it where it came out of the cap. We ran it around up and up under the swale, and there's a chamber that had to be lower, so it was a significant extra amount of work. So that was about 20,000 for that. That's one of the biggest, And then we realized for now, we have to have 3 tanks, propane tanks, to heat the building because we can't tie into natural gas for another couple of years. 2020, I think, is what the projection is. So we need 3 tanks, and they need to be on a concrete pad, for code reasons. So that was $5,200. Change order, another one is backflow preventer overflow. So this is a schematic of the backflow preventer in the building. So what usually happens is when the backflow triggers, it basically dumps water. All right, it would just dump water straight down, and a lot of times it just goes into a floor drain. Well, the issue here is this is a 4-inch backflow preventer. This is going to dump a boatload of water. Too much water for a floor drain. We'll soak the sills on the walls and everything else, and sheetrock, and we don't want to do that, obviously. Not that this is going to happen often, but we know it's there. We know we want to correct it. Now, bear in mind, there were a few items, like this one. This is the first one, where we knew about this when we were out to bid. It was like, we put out some addendum when we were out to bid, cleaning things up, and this was like a couple of last-minute things going, oh, wait a minute, we got to figure this out. But we didn't have time before the bids came in. So it's a couple of small things, I'll show them to you, that we knew we'd have to clean up. And this is one of them. So $1,700 to clean up the backflow preventer. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to pipe it outside direct. It's just going to dump onto the ground outside whenever that occurs. So $1,700. Another thing, antenna wiring conduit. So from the Natural Resources Office, we have to run some conduit up to the antenna. That wasn't known at the time when we went out to bid. It's for a VHF radio, so we need to do that. So that's $424. None of this is big stuff. Yard hydrant wiring. We knew we had the yard hydrant figured out, but we didn't know the detail on how we were going to remotely read the yard hydrant from the administration office. So like when landscapers come up and fill up their trucks, we're going to have it remotely read. We don't have to go walk out there with them. So anyway, we just need some conduit run to the other side of the building to where the actual yard hydrant meter is, which is over here in the garage. So that's $1,500. Waste oil pump wiring and conduit. We have a waste oil tank in the fluid storage room, but there is a pump out in the garage. So the mechanic can just take the oil and put it into like a sink type structure, and that'll automatically pump to the waste oil tank. $1,520 for that conduit. Some bin wall reinforcement. So this goes back to last fall. We were installing the bins in the salt storage shed with all those concrete blocks.
And there are a couple of spots, areas we're concerned about. For example, like, you could be loading this with a loader, and this is a wall, and this is the ramp up to the salt shed. And you physically, if the loader hit one of those blocks, you can knock it over. You know what I mean? If you hit it hard enough, it can knock it on someone. Even though they're structurally sound as they were, we just thought it was a really good idea. It was actually the installer's recommendation. We added some galvanized plates and bolted it all together. It also stiffened, even with this is the ramp to load the sanders. It would just give more life and stability to that wall. And we thought for $7,800 that was a really good idea. And there's also, they were gonna have like, we're gonna put, the blocks interlock, almost like Legos, those bumps on top. The top row, we just said, we want flat blocks up there. Total price installed is $7,800.
Tom, can you, go back over and can we do it on this, where the regrading issues are around this building? Didn't we have, wasn't there like $5,900 or something for?
Regrading? Or was
yeah.
it for paving around it or something?
I'm not quite sure where that, where
Around
it
the
was.
salt shed?
Yeah, I thought there was some regrading that we did around here, or redoing drainage or something like that.
We did, okay, I might be able to, I don't have a plan probably set up. I might have another plan, but let's look at this one for a minute. I think it's this one will help. So we did have a change, earlier I talked about it. As part of the original change order number 1, $7,000.
Yeah, right.
And what happened was this catch basin right here, okay? Let me explain this. There's an existing like basin over here, and it just came down and it drained over into the swale here. And the plans called to remove it, okay? And because it wasn't necessary, because to do the appropriate grading we needed to do with the salt shed, we just need to re-plumb it in this area. So what happened was this basin that was sitting here, this existing one, we found out early in the job that a large portion of the under drain of the cap of the landfill, so when rain hits the landfill, it gets caught up on top of the cap, but there are drains there on top of the cap to collect that rainwater from the soil, right? And then it brought it down to a pipe that tied into this existing basin right here. So we couldn't abandon that basin,
Right.
because it was draining something that we needed, and we just didn't know at the time. So what we did was we turned that basin there into a manhole, and we tied it into here, but then we had to lower this entire thing to make all the grades work, and that was that change order.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, what else we got? This came up a few weeks ago. We were looking at furniture layout and things like that, and this is in the foreman's office, and there's a counter here, and I'm like, why is there a counter there? I never asked for a counter there, but there's a counter there. So we removed the counter and got an $1,100 credit. So that'll roll into change order number 2. Change order number 3, so this is stuff that we put pricing requests out there, just haven't got it yet. And it's a lot of little stuff, like when we went out, and some of the stuff again we were aware of, we need to correct it, but we just didn't have time before it went out in the street. This is the sign shop, and we want this wall in the sign shop to have plywood screwed into the studs, so we put shelving up against it. One, it would be safer, more stable, and the wall won't get beat up with all the signage material. And then here there's a sliding door, almost like a barn style door, and it was wire mesh. For some reason it ended up wire mesh in the final plans. It was someone's idea, not ours, and so we want to make that a solid door. So this is a small number of stuff, but stuff that we're looking at down the road to get pricing on. Another one that we just couldn't get done in the last minute was, you got these, this is a large garage storage garage, and we got these stairs that go up to the mezzanines, and you physically could actually drive a truck into these stairs, and it's like, it's just a little risky. So we're getting a price to put bollards in front of these stairs to protect the stairs. Again, we're gonna get the prices in, we'll see if they're good prices or reasonable or not, and we'll make those decisions at that time. But so far, the contract has been very good with this pricing, very reasonable, on all this pricing, looking at the scope of each individual issue. Again, we're looking at furniture and shelving and things a couple of weeks ago, and this is a mezzanine above the water shop, and we've got, so there's like a crane here that can pick things up and bring things over onto the mezzanine, and here's a little gate in the railing up on the mezzanine, right, to bring stuff up. But then I've got proposed shelving here along this whole side. So, but with just this little rail. So someone could physically put something on a shelf and it could fall over the top and drop 20-something feet on someone's head, you know? So we've asked for a price to put in some chain link fence along this edge to protect, you know, the shelving. So we'll see what that comes in at. This is the impervious swale. I think we've talked about this. I just want you to know what's going on. This is not getting funded out of the project. This is getting funded out of the wastewater article from last year. So here's the salt shed. Here's the transfer station over here. The gift house is right here. Here's the landfill. So there's this existing swale that flows through here and down to the retention pond. It has for years. And the old septic lagoons are under here. They're right in this whole big square area is where the septic lagoons are. And based upon some groundwater monitoring, et cetera, we found out a year or so ago that the groundwater, well, the water from the entire site, you know, all this transfer station and a lot of the landfill runs through this swale. And it just percolates through the swale, percolates through the old septic lagoons, picks up nitrogen, dumps it into the groundwater, and eventually flows out to Town Cove. So one of the projects that was talked about last year as part of the wastewater work was to make this impervious, put a liner under this whole area. So we got a price, we just got it, we finally got the blessings basically from DEP for this work, and we got the price from the contractor of $99,000, and that's under budget compared to what was in the budget for town meeting a little over a year ago. So we're in the process, I say plus or minus, we're just, that's the number, but we're just making the final, you know, dotting the i's, crossing the t's. But that is not part of this project. Just so you know, it is going on. It is a change order with West Construction. And I called that number 4, change order number 4. All right, so here's where we are kind of today. So if all this stuff moves forward, including the concrete knockdown pad, that's the one I want to talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. If you add all that up, it's $47,000. So if I take that $47,000, I add it to the $42,000 that we already approved, it brings me to 15% through the contingency. So we're 33% through the job. We do all this. Most of this was basically already approved. I just want to talk to you about this one. 15%, we're only 15% through the contingency. So we're in excellent shape, I think. And 6% is due to field conditions. Only 6% of all that, which means, you know, solid plans, solid specifications. What is that 6%? That's the $7,000 from change order 1. You know, this $20,000. You know, these items here that we just have to kind of do, but it's 6%. So we're in good shape. But let's talk. I mean, I still have 16,000 in other areas where I'm under, so that's good. So let's talk concrete knockdown pad. What am I talking about? Why are we here today? So as part of the original project, right up until like, God, probably right before we went out to bid. This is where the wash bay is in the building. So the theory is, the practice will be, you know, sander comes in, you know, day after a storm, we want to wash the sander. So the sander parks on top of this knockdown pad, concrete knockdown pad, and we have a high volume, low pressure hose out there, totally legal, and we just rinse the truck off. So you're taking off all the sand and all the heavy stuff that can be basically washed down with rain, all right? Because remember, this wash bay feeds a tight tank, you know, so we want to keep our volumes down in the tight tank because that costs us to dispose. So then once the truck is washed down, knocked down, basically with the heavy stuff, they drive into the wash bay, they get a full regular cleaning, and then off they go, you know, out of the wash bay, and they go back into the storage area. So as part of, you know, we wanted to make sure, because of timing, you know, we had to have bids in hand for town meeting. We did everything we could to make sure we were going to come in within budget, you know, within estimate, you know, that we had talked about with the people, the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee, et cetera. So we did some value engineering back then, and remember we had taken out, some of the things we put back in with the last change order, we had taken out, some of the translucent panels and things like that. Well, this is another thing we took out, and probably the last thing we'll talk about, you know, for the rest of the job that we did take out. We took out the concrete pad, and we put in, we changed it for just asphalt. Just change the grading, you know what I mean? Just use asphalt instead of the concrete. And we can still do that. However, you know, it's a little more difficult grading out the asphalt than it is precise grading out the concrete in that area. And we really want to do this right. But the other thing is life cycle costs. So let me grab something. I hope I have it. So it's $10,000 proposed for the knockdown pad. to go from asphalt to concrete. Actually, no, it's 10,000 bucks. Okay, 10,000. So, we think it's a good idea to put it back. You know, to spend it, we're doing, I hit something, sorry. We're doing very well on the contingency. You know, we're out of the ground. A lot of our risk is ended, you know what I mean? Now it's just really mostly coordination between the utilities of the building, you know, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, which even those meetings are going very well. So we feel very comfortable that, you know, we should do this. So why? So if you look at this, I had Weston and Sampson do a little life cycle cost analysis on the concrete pad. So we're going to spend, you know, the short version is, you know, concrete's much more durable than asphalt. And we're going to have to replace the asphalt a lot sooner than we'll ever have to replace the concrete due to, you know, the extra use that that particular location is going to get. So they figure the life expectancy of the asphalt is 6 years. And the life expectancy of the concrete, a minimum of 20. You know, and every time we replace that asphalt, they're figuring 13 to 15,000 or whatever value worth of work to do that. So you're doing that every 6 years instead of replacing the concrete every 20 or, yeah. So we just think it's a better idea, you know, in the long run to change, we got the money to change this to concrete now but, you know, we've been talking about this for a couple of months. We got the price in a month ago, and I talked to Peter, and I said, you know, we haven't been in front of this committee in a while. Let's give them an update. Let's talk about this one little change order and see what they think. So that's what I got.
Yeah, for what it's worth, this is kind of banged around the last few construction meetings, and I asked Dan Steves from Weston and Sampson his opinion on this, as well as Joe Sullivan from Daedalus, and Weston and Sampson basically came back and said they've never done a DPW garage without a concrete knockdown pad. The long and the short here is that this is a longevity thing, and it seems to be the standard to have it and rather than not have it. The other issue is that we have, you know, that's southwestern facing asphalt in the parking lot, which is just going to get baked. And there's going to be all kinds of heavy equipment in there. So everybody's opinion seemed to be this was kind of a no-brainer, and, you know, we took it out and we really should have it back in there.
So what happens, the truck is actually put onto that pad and then hosed down?
Yeah.
And then the sand or whatever just goes away?
Yeah, if you look, let's go back. I didn't point it out, sorry. In the middle of that concrete pad, right there,
Yep.
see that little dot right there?
Yeah.
That's a catch basin. And that catch basin ties into a sediment basin right there.
Okay, so it collects all the stuff and sends
It collects all the sediment, all the sand, and then the storm water, what's left, actually goes into the stormwater system,
Yeah.
which is fine, and we got a permit, whatever it is, from DEP to do that, it's fine.
You know, you got drainage control issues there and
Yeah.
hot asphalt and trying to keep it to critical grades,
get
and,
that. That makes
you know,
sense.
it's just, at the end of the day, it's just,
Yep.
it seems to make way more sense, you know,
Yep.
to do it than not.
You know, if I can say two things, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, real quick, like, you know, like we brought to you the change orders, you know, to raise the building height before, because, you know, that was an optional item, and, you know, put the translucent panels in, and that's an optional item, and, you know, some of the other stuff you've seen here aren't really optional, we gotta do that stuff. This is more, we really should, a little more than optional, but it's an optional item, and that's why we said, we'll just bring it to you and see what you think. But, you know, you talk about change orders and what we're looking at. I mean, if you look at what I just showed you real quick, you know, I'm showing you everything I got. You know, there's nothing, you know, if you look at, let's back up for a minute. So we know this, this is all added in, we're already talking about that. In this stuff, I mean, this is stuff we're still waiting to find out, but this is small ticket stuff, you know, some plywood, change a door out, you get a credit for the old door, and it might be cheaper for the new door on that barn style door, we don't know yet. Some ballers, I mean, you know, you're talking.
Those bollards are worth about $1,500 a piece, aren't they?
Oh, they're cheap. They won't cost us that. If they cost us that, forget it. You know what I mean? I'll put a concrete block there inside the building, you know what I mean? I think that this contract has been great to work with. So, you know, even this, it's a little fencing inside the mezzanine, you know, probably a couple thousand, but this isn't even part of the job. That's it. That's all we got for unknowns right now. You know, we really, you know, we might be 33% through the job, but, you know, knock on wood, doing pretty good. I mean, I'm gonna put
Herb?
Ron Collins on the spot. Ron, how's the job going? You're the facilities manager.
What's that?
I said, you're the facilities manager. How's the job going?
Still good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, no, I like working with those guys.
Herb, you got a question?
No, I was just gonna say, a week ago, I went to the construction meeting on Thursday morning, and Peter brought up one question I had on the knockdown pad regarding putting some kind of heating element underneath the concrete, because if you're hosing off trucks in a severe winter situation, it could freeze, the water could freeze, you could get icing, it could become a very difficult thing to work with. And the general consensus all the way around the table was there'd be plenty of salt coming off those trucks. Ice is not going to be a problem on that pad, and that satisfied me. It seems to me that the knockdown pad is a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was discussed and felt it wasn't necessary to have any kind of heating system on the thing. It would just be a waste.
And that's pretty much the extent of our change orders that we have numbers to, yeah. All right, I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend approval of the concrete knockdown pad change order.
Second.
Do we need to include in that these other things in change order number 2? We haven't voted on those, have we?
You don't have to, but you can if you want.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for that matter, I mean, maybe we, move that we accept the change orders through A through C.
A through E?
Yeah, for a total of $47,060.
Sorry. It's a C instead of an F,
Yeah,
or a C instead of a G.
does that keep everybody happy? Anyone want a second on that?
Second.
Do I hear a vote? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much, I really appreciate it. That's all I got, kids. That's all I
but-
got.
Yeah,
By the way, I just want to reinforce what I've already told Tom and said to Peter. I was very, very impressed at that meeting, and if any of you have a chance to go over there, sit in on one of those Thursday morning meetings. It was very informative, very professional. I was very impressed with the way the whole thing went, and very impressed with the progress on the building.
yeah, I'd second that. I mean, yeah, my observations have been, it seems to be a real well-working team, and when issues have come up, they've been solved in pretty short order, and everybody seems to be, you know, going in the same direction, so it's been gratifying to watch. We have some minutes.
Got a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Question for Tom, when you say 15 grand under in other areas,
Yep.
where did that come from?
It was a lot of the work we did last year as DPW, some of the site work. You catch me a little off guard exactly, but my recollection was some of the work that's already been completed, like the building demolition was a piece of it. That came in a little bit under, you know, like $5-6 grand under, and then there was some site work that we had done that came in under anticipated. I believe that's where it came out of.
Well, the work that your department did in site preparation, that should be built towards the project though.
No.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's a cost to the town.
That's a management decision.
No, I understand that, but I'm looking from a financial point of view.
I know, I hear you.
We have some minutes to approve.
PDF of that whole thing, all the numbers.
Yep.
Just makes your life easier.
Yep.
You can always just attach the presentation.
What's that?
Just attach the presentation.
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah.
Saves you rest.
Yep.
Just because you get to show it.
Anybody have anything to add? Edit? Comment?
Move it first.
I'll move that we accept the minutes from October 18th as printed.
Second?
Aye. Okay. We'll hear a vote. Aye.
Right.
All right. Okay. Do we have any other business? Then I'll move that we adjourn the meeting.
Not really.
Second? Okay.
Not really.
Do we hear a vote for the adjournment?
Here, here.
Aye. All right.
Throw the switch.
Can you do something about the